Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video, we're going to be installing a BAK MX4TS tonneau cover on my 2023 Raptor. So, all of the tonneau covers I've had today all have T-slot rails, and this one is no exception. This one, however, is different than the last few. So the first one I had was the X4TS. That was a hard rolling tonneau cover. Then I had the Retrax, which we'll talk about in an upcoming video. That was a fully retractable hard tonneau cover. This one is a hard folding tonneau cover. So 3 sections, folds up. When you need to get it up out of the way, it leans up against the cab. When you have it closed, clicks into place, open up the tailgate, and that's how you pop it open. So super awesome. I had a lot of hard folding tonneau covers on my previous trucks. Absolutely love them. I think they're great from a security standpoint, from a durability standpoint. They are lacking one thing that I thought the Retrax did really well, but we'll talk about that in a future comparison video. But in this video, let's go ahead and get into the install. I will say, of all the tonneau covers on the market, this is probably one of the easiest tonneau covers to install. They're doing a very good job at streamlining these, and there's very little tools needed. So let's get everything out of the box, take a look at what comes in the kit, and then get right into the installation. All right, so I went ahead and took everything except the tonneau cover out of the box. So we got our rails here, we got our drain tubes, our weather seal, our bumpers for the last panel of the tonneau cover so that when we do fold it up and bumps up against the cab, it's not going to scratch anything. We got our clamps. Kudos to RealTruck. So now you get some spare parts with some of these kits, and then we get our hardware stuff, which is for the tonneau cover itself. So by all accounts, like I said, this is one of the most straightforward installations. First thing we're going to do is take this weather seal, hop up in the truck bed, and then we're going to install it on the bulkhead. What we want to do is install it on the ledge here as close to the inside of the truck as possible. So it's going to go from the plastic bed cap all the way to the other side. On the most inside portion of it, you can see some remnants from the last few weather strips I had on there from other tonneau covers, but let's go ahead and reinstall this guy. Maybe wipe it down with some alcohol first and get it installed. All right, so we got our weather stripping fully installed, so that part is good to go. Ignore this wire. That's for my chase lights that ultimately mount on the T-slot rails. And I basically just sandwich the wire just like that underneath the tonneau cover, but you're gonna probably have to cut off 3 or 4 inches of that weather stripping to make it fit perfectly, but you want a nice tight fit. Little overhang won't kill you. So now let's focus on the clamps themselves and the rails. So the next thing we're gonna do is install these rails on the bedside top here. So the brackets, you need to pull them apart, and then you have what's the inboard side. So this is the portion that's gonna go up on the back side of the little rail here. You have the truck bedside, I guess. This part's gonna attach onto the rail itself, and then you got your hardware, which threads through here into the threaded insert there. So if you take your bedside rails and you flip them over, you'll see that there's a weather stripping on one side. That weather stripping is what's gonna push up against here, so it protects and it's not gonna scratch the inside of your bed rail. Then you take that clamp side, so the side that does not have the threaded insert, and you find the little rail, and you basically just push it in there, and then it clamps, and it basically just feeds right into that little extruded aluminum rail. That way, you could then attach your hardware once you go to get it installed. So there are 3 brackets or 3 clamps per side. When you go to install your rail, hang it in place, and then figure out, reach up behind the rail here, and figure out where you have clearance in order to install those clamps. Because some spots, like right here, there's a little plastic nub, and we won't be able to install the clamp there, but right next to it, it's perfectly clear. So don't install these just yet. Put the rail up on the edge of the bed, figure out where you want to put those things, and then you can go ahead and pop those in, and then you can reinstall everything. So we are in the bed, and we're going to focus on the passenger side rail. So you can see it pushes right up against the bulkhead. Again, look for that little drainage nipple there. That goes towards the front of the truck, and then you want the rail itself sitting flat and horizontal on top of the bedside rail. So what we're going to do now is figure out where we want to put our clamps, and in order to do that, we need to reach up behind the bedside rail and make sure we have clearance. Once we identify those spots, then we can start putting our clamps into place and tighten everything down. It's a 1/2-inch socket, and then you put 1 in the front, 1 in the middle, we'll probably do it right about there, and then 1 in the rear so you get enough support. All right, so we went ahead and finished up installing all the brackets. The front one is about as far forward as I can get with some clearance behind the bed rail, so right by that little notch right after the box link. The middle one is literally right in the middle of the truck bed, right by the top of this little rod here, which is the kickstand for the tonneau cover. And then the rear one went pretty far back. There's clearance right up until this little notch out, and then just tighten everything down. It was helpful to tighten down the middle one, and then while you're tightening it down, lean on here. You wanna make sure that the top of the rail is flat, so that when the tonneau cover does close, it closes and gives you a nice good seal. So all those are installed. We'll go ahead and do the driver's side one. We'll install our drain tubes, which are gonna attach to here. I'll run them behind this little rail here, and then they're gonna pop through here. So if you don't have a drain rail yet, you could obviously route it this way, which I think is a little too tight, and I already got wires through there, or just drop it straight down. That's a plastic little plug there. Just drill, I think it's about a 1/2 inch hole there, or a 3/4 inch hole, and then pop the drain tube right through there, and you're good to go. All right, quick stock take where we're at. We got both our rails on, and the hard work is done, and even at that, it was super easy to do. We also have our drain tubes installed. You can see behind this bundle of wires, got the drain tube, I have it tucked behind my built-right rail, and then it drops out of that little hole. Super simple. Just lay it in there. You don't need to attach it with anything. Pressure is all it needs. But they're nice and tucked out of the way. Got the driver's side rail done as well. So now let's go get the tonneau cover out of the box. There's some hardware we need to install on that guy before we could drop it down into place. All right, we got our bed rails installed. We got our drain tubes installed. Now what we need to do is go ahead and get your tonneau cover out of the box, and then we need to prepare this guy before we drop it into place. This is super simple. We're gonna open up the tonneau cover and we're gonna locate that little header panel. The header panel has masking tape on both sides. I left this one in place just so you can see. What that's covering is 2 pre-drilled holes on both sides. So you got one on the driver's side, one on the passenger side. Once you remove that, that's what you're left with. And what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be installing the female side of the buckles. This way, when we fold up the tonneau cover and want to just have a panel down, there's a strap that you could buckle right into those things to hold everything into place. So you get the buckles themselves, you get a rubber gasket, as well as threaded inserts and screws. So these guys will install. We flip this over. Basically, you can install right like that. So, all right, so we got our little rubber gasket installed on the back side of that buckle. We got our 2 threaded inserts installed there. So we're gonna hold those guys. We're gonna flip that a little bit. And you want the opening of the buckle to face the back. We're gonna take our hardware, drop it right down in there. All right, line that up, hit it with our Phillips head screwdriver. And these things don't need to be Hulk tight. They'll kind of tighten themselves since you're going into aluminum here. Get that guy in there. And there you go. And all I'm doing is holding that threaded insert on the back. And as I tighten it, it stops spinning, so we're good to go. All right, let's go ahead and do the other side, and then we're ready to go to get the bottom clips installed and then throw this guy in the truck. All right, now the last thing you need to do after you install those buckles on both sides is you need to install these little plastic brackets. So what these do is once you go to install the tonneau cover on the truck, you slide these out, and this is what clamps onto the bottom side of the bed rail, and it holds this front portion into place. So we need to loosen that guy up, pop it down. There's a carriage bolt in the bottom, and it just slides right into place. This is why I'm saying this is one of the easiest tonneau covers to install, because there's not a lot of tools needed with the exception of a Phillips head and then the clamps with the 1/2 inch. But now we're good to go. We got this on both sides. So once we go pop it on the truck, we're going to loosen this way up, and then we're going to slide this up underneath, and this little notch here is what grabs the bottom edge of the bed rail, and then we just tighten everything up, line everything, and then get it right into place. So let's go ahead and get this guy in the truck. All right, so I got the tonneau cover just loosely popped into place. I have not tightened down those clamps yet. You can see everything's still kind of popped up. That weather stripping is going to push it up just a little bit until we get it installed. So now what I'm going to do is just slowly unfold everything. We'll get this packing stuff out of here. And what I'm looking to do here is, so I can free up a hand, is to drop this guy into place. And what we're going to do is we're going to close the tailgate and make sure that we're getting enough seal on the back end. We might need to push this guy around a little bit. And then once we get everything into place, we're going to carefully fold this back up, go back underneath, grab those little clamps, and then tighten those down. And that's what's going to hold everything into place. All right, so I have everything where I think it should fall into place here. One thing I will say is don't worry about the seal being folded up. This is just from the tonneau cover being in a box. If you park the truck outside for 24, 48 hours, all this stuff will flatten out. Trust me, been there. I was worried about it when I first saw it, but trust me, the sun will flatten all this stuff out. So now what we're gonna do, now we have everything in place, and the one thing I will say is if you got the automatic tailgate, open and close it a few times and make sure that it's properly sealing, and that when you close it, it's not gonna hit the tonneau cover and then lower itself back down. So we have it where we want it. Now what we're gonna do is open it by pulling one of these cables, and we're gonna slowly fold it up each section, hop up underneath, and then tighten down those 2 corner clamps, and then we're done with the tonneau cover install. And the last thing we'll do is install this. So let's get those clamps tightened down, and then I'll show you where and how to install these little bumpers. All right, so we're inside the truck bed here. I did have to move my front clamp a little bit back to make room for this little clamp here, but I just loosely put these guys into place. And now, again, we want to line up the little notch on the plastic piece with the bottom edge of the bed topper thing, or the bed ledge here. And now once we have everything in place, Again, test fit it one more time just to make sure everything's where you need it. And then all we gotta do is tighten these things down. Don't need to be Hulk strike, just enough to hold the tonneau cover in place. And then we can hop out and I'll show you where to install his bumpers and close this one out. All right, so now that we have our tonneau cover folded up into the 1/3 section, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna keep an eye on this section, and then we're gonna take the tonneau cover itself, and as we fold it up, we're gonna take note of where the tonneau cover makes contact with the cab, and that's where we're gonna put those rubber bumpers there. That way, if we ever need to pop this guy up, leave it there for now, use our little kickstands, put it in here. That holds everything into place, and then we want the rubber bumpers to make sure that that's not bouncing off the glass, or in my case, the third brake light. So anyway, let's go ahead and get those bumpers installed on there. Those stay underneath, and then, you know, when you're not in use and you want to tuck this guy away, you just take your tonneau cover, pop it down, you hear that section clip into place. Pop this section down, you hear that clip into place, and then the final section does the same thing. The one other thing I will show you while we're over here is, if you did just need to drive with just 1/3 or 2/3 of the bed accessible and you just wanted to have your tonneau cover folded like that, that's why we installed those clips there. So you have these little straps here, these go in like that, and that holds that final section into place. Because you got the clip here and then you got the strap there, it's not going anywhere. You can just clip it on both sides. But let's go ahead and get the bumper installed on here, and then we are done. We can shut this one down. All right, so we got our bumpers installed. Just kind of want to give you a quick view of what it looks like when it's folded up against the cap. So when you have it folded up like that, that's what these little kickstands are for. So we're going to loosen this guy up, pull that up that way, and then you tighten that down, tighten these into place. That way, when you're driving, the wind's not going to push it forward because these little kickstands are holding it up. When you want to get rid of that, you just loosen it up, pull those clamps up, put this guy back where it needs to go, and we're good to go. So now let's unfold it. One-hand operation, so we're gonna go ahead and unclip these. And there's little keepers in there too, so if you wanna have your strap just kind of hang there, you could tuck them in just like so. Tuck that guy in, and then if we wanna close this section, pull it back, just like that. Close this section, drop that into place. A clip there, we are good to go. So here is the finish of the MX4TS. A little bit of a shine to it, but definitely more of a matte finish. Looks a lot better than the older versions. I had the MX4 on 2 trucks back or 3 trucks back, and the older finish, this is definitely an upgraded look to it. Looks nice. The seals look really robust, which is nice. And again, like I said, you have your T-slot rails. So it is dark now. But what we'll do is we'll get this out in the daylight tomorrow, and we'll take a look at the final product, and then we will shut this video down. All right, so let's talk about the operation of the MX4TS. So first and foremost, the only way to open up the tonneau cover is by having the tailgate down. So that is my biggest gripe about tonneau covers like this, is no external latch. That is the biggest thing that I miss from the RealTrucks. The RealTrucks, you could open up the latch here, open up the tonneau cover without the tailgate being down. That's super helpful in tight parking spots or in garage. It's a pretty small garage where you can't have the tailgate down. It's nice to be able to open that up, but also lock it. But that's kind of the drawback of that. If you got an external latch, you just gotta make sure that you're locking it. But anyway, we don't have that. We got internal ones. So there's a cable on both sides. You just need to pull one, and that's how you open it. So let's hop up here. So if we wanna fold it up into the 1/3 position, pull that cable, we'll pull this cable, and then we'll grab our clips here, and these clip right into those pieces that we put on during the installation. All right, so we can drive around like this if we need to. So if we only need access to this portion of the bed, perfectly fine. Now let's say we wanted access to the entire bed. Go ahead and take the last clip, leave it clipped down on those plastic snaps. Then we'll take our kickstands here, loosen this up, lower that down, and there's a kickstand on both sides. Now you could drive at highway speeds like this. I know a lot of people are really concerned about this, and are the kickstands enough? Yes, they most absolutely are. This is one of the things that some people say are drawbacks of Trifolds, is now I'm blocking my rear window, but if you remember, I got a Wolfcam digital rear view mirror, so this really doesn't bother me too much. But anyway, now if we want to put it back as far as normal tonneau cover, we'll get our kickstands, this up, put the kickstand away, fold it down, and everything just clips in with these little clips, right? So we'll clip there, we'll open it up, clip there, clip there, and now our tonneau cover is fully installed and everything's super secure. So that's how you operate the MX4TS. All right, last and not least, before we shut this video down, just wanted to show you how I'm already using the T-slots. So I have my chase lights here, And I always mount these in T-slots. So you saw these on the RealTruck, you saw these on the X4TS. Now they're on the MX4TS, and they just mount with a mounting bolt from the Elevate rack system through the bottom of my Diode Dynamics pod, and then I just bolt everything down. I run the cable into the truck bed. Those are the wires we saw earlier in the video. But anyway, that is how you install the MX4TS. That's my opinion on the MX4TS. Stick around. The next video is going to be comparing this tonneau cover to the RealTruck. So there's some differences that I want to point out, but by all accounts, I really do love this tonneau cover. The only thing I wish could change, and maybe in the future they're going to add this, is an external latch that you could lock. But anyway, that is the install of the MX4TS. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Leave your questions down in the comments below. And please, if you're going to purchase this one, use my affiliate link down in the description. It helps me keep videos like this coming. But Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. You guys have a good one. Bye.